Good afternoon, everyone. I'm San Francisco Mayor London Breed, and I want to welcome you to City Hall to swear in our next city attorney for San Francisco, David Chiu. We know David wanted to have this swearing in Chinatown, so with the rain, it made it difficult. But we're bringing Chinatown to City Hall, and so we want to take this opportunity to thank Lion Dance Me for their amazing performance. Thank you so much. Now, you know San Franciscans love a good swearing in, don't we? So all the elected officials came out for this occasion. So it may take me 2 hours to acknowledge each and every one of them, but I want to just take this opportunity to recognize and thank the outgoing city attorney who has been our rock for 20 years, Dennis Herrera. Thank you, Dennis. And I see hiding in the crowd in her mask, the former city attorney before Dennis is Louise Rennie. Thank you so much for joining us, Louise. We're also joined by California's top law enforcer in the state. Amazing, Rob Bonta is joining us here today. Thank you so much. We got old mayors, we got new mayors, we got mayors just making it rain mayors. But I saw Willie Brown here earlier today, and I want to thank him for being here. David's former roommate in college with a lot of secrets to tell. Sam Liccardo from San Jose, thank you for being here with us. I want to recognize some of our state representatives that are joining us, including our very own Senator Scott Wiener, and Board of Equalization member Malia Cohen. Thank you to our city-wide elected officials for being here. Jose Cisneros, our treasurer. Our district attorney, Chesa Bodine. Our public defender, Mano Raju. Our assessor recorder, Joaquin Torres. And I noticed one of our BART board members, Bevan Dufty. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to recognize that we have a quorum of the members of the Board of Supervisors, starting with the President of the Board of Supervisors, Shaman Walton, Hillary Ronan, Aaron Peskin, Asha Safai, Catherine Stephanie, Raphael Mandelman, Gordon Marr, Matt Haney, Myrna Melgar, and Connie Chan. I also noticed our sheriff is in town. Thank you so much, Paul Miyamoto, for being here. So for the rest of the 5 people that are left, the names I didn't say, thank you all for joining us here today for this occasion to swear in our next city attorney. David Chiu is an amazing person. His entire family is here, including his mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Chiu. Thank you so much for being here. His brothers are joining us as well. But mom and dad did the hard work, his wife Candace and son Lucas. David has a rich history in this city, and we are looking forward to his work as city attorney. And right now, we're going to let the program begin. And I want to start by introducing Galileo alumni Reverend Norman Fong, who will be providing our invocation.
First met David Chiu, 1999, and I don't know how I felt about attorneys, but he was a good one. He was defending immigrant rights, right? Back then against the governor. Oh, I remember now, okay. He's also, right after that, he joined into Chinatown wholeheartedly, and he has become a part of our family. He joined the Chinatown CDC board. He's met SRO families and fought for tenants and done so many things. And we love you for that, and we are sure you're still going to do that. First Asian city attorney. First Asian American supervisor to represent our districts. First assemblyman, first, so many things. But I'm here as your Presbyterian colleague today. And so all that stuff is good, but I have my own charge. Because you're a Presbyterian, you know that the theology of government is their purpose in this world is to bring forth justice. So everybody just yell, justice! Justice! And you know, oh, you might have forgotten, my son was an intern with you when you were president of the board, right? Yeah. And his name is what? Micah. Your charge is very simple. Micah 6:8, it is my favorite verse in the Bible. And everyone repeat after me, except the last one if you have problems, all right? But what does the Lord require but to do justice? Everyone say that. Do justice. Love compassion. And if you're open and willing, and walk humbly with God. Bless you, bro. I forgot why I brought the paper here. Okay, I'm supposed to introduce the one and only singer, poet, and she's going to do spoken word. Her name is Tiffany Fuller, and she is bad. She is the first graduate of old school care in the Bayview. Give it up for Tiffany Fuller. Oh, I can't wait. She wouldn't even do rehearsal with me, so I got.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Fuller. I am a San Francisco native, born and raised in the Bayview. I know David and his wife because they have been longtime supporters of Old School Cafe, a youth-run supper club, helping at-risk youth get job training in the restaurant industry. Once upon a time, I used to be one of those at-risk youth. I had a drug addict mother and an unknown father, and I grew up in foster care. I suffered with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation. I'm still healing from some of those childhood traumas, but through the program, Old School, I've been able to become the first graduate from the program to go to college and get a master's degree in screenwriting from USC. Thank you. So I definitely have a lot of life plans, but today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about justice. Is that cool? Okay. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. All deep in You know, the next few lines of that song says something about walking hand in hand and living in peace, but how am I supposed to live in peace if I can't afford the rent increase? And not everybody wants to hold my hand, and it's got nothing to do with social distancing. Don't touch me is what they really want to say. They look at me a type of way because I'm a little bit more blessed by the sun rays. Ray-Bans on to shade the shade thrown at my shade. There's barely any shade because there's barely any trees to read under. Over where? Over there? I don't see it. Not here or there or on the ground in desperate search for the books that came from the trees that were indeed cut down. I can barely breathe. Global warming is definitely a thing. Ventilation machine is ironically sucking the life out of this country. A melting pot of collard greens and red or black beans, black-eyed peas, collard greens, curry chicken and plantains fried twice. Whole foods and clean water is definitely a right. But I'm too tired to bike to the train, to the bus, to the train, because there is not a grocery store within range. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe. I believe. I'm sick and tired of singing this song over and over on repeat, down on my knees, begging the powers that be. Can't you hear me? It's taken generations to be black and proud, confident and loud. My eyes are closed and my head is bowed. Lord, I have listened and obeyed, but where is the change? Not the spare change tossed to the ground where the have-nots lay their crown, but the change that allows the blacks and the browns, all people, and the people of Chinatown, the trans, my gay best friend and his crowd, the one teacher to 30 kids who refuse to throw in the towel, a safe space. A place to call home with plenty of rooms but no ceiling. You need not religion but respect the sanctuary, or please exit the building or go outside if you need to decide if Roe v. Wade was a fair fight or flight. Either way, my back is tired and my bra's too tight. I'm sick and tired and ready to retire from marching around downtown, town and around down the street screaming, I got rights. Why I gotta protest to be free? Why I gotta protest to be me? Why they gotta protest to be them, they, or whatever name they wish to be? Say their name, whether it's Ken, Barbie, or Stevie, and this ain't a word game or a game show. The price is not right, but just in case, go ahead and change the channel or keep scrolling. Hashtag not again. One nation, but equal pay and living wage is still a conversation. Stop Asian hate and Black Lives Matter still trending. Enough! Enough. Enough is enough is enough. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. I'ma just keep singing it until it's true.
Wow. Thank you, Tiffany, for those words and for that inspiration. Let's give her one more round of applause. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. And thank you. Thank you. And just so honored to be here on this special day, this historic day, to celebrate our friend, someone we all so admire and respect, San Francisco City Attorney David Chiu. And I speak more today as a longtime friend of David's, not as California Attorney General. I've had the pleasure of knowing David from before either of us ever ran for office. I remember sitting with him and talking about our potential paths forward, our desire to serve, to lift communities up, to fight for the things that we both care about so much, opportunity and equity and justice and inclusion, talking about the unlikelihood of us being able to do that given our histories. My mom was an immigrant from the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines, came here when I was 2 months old. David Chiu, the son of immigrants. But we were always fueled by that desire to serve. And so, and David stepped into the role so naturally, so early. As a San Francisco Board of Supervisors leader, he was the leader that leaders look to lead, not just the leader his constituents need. He was elected board president 3 times consecutively, historic in that regard. Later, the first API to lead his assembly district. And, I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again here. We served for multiple years in the state legislature, and David Chiu was my favorite assembly member, and I include myself, because we served together. I liked him better than I liked me, because of the way he got it done. Some people have the values, but can't find a way to turn those values into action, into concrete change, to deliver for the constituents who need it. Some people can deliver, but don't necessarily have the values that are the right ones for the people. David has both. When I think about the legislature, there are legislators, and then there's David Chiu. It's another level. He's always performed at that other level. He's always earned the respect, admiration, and respect of those who he serves with, and that's no different here. So and I've seen him take on the big fights, the scary fights, and for him, they're not scary. They're what he wants. That's what he looked for. He looked to always balance the scales of justice, to take on the most powerful, whether it be the lead paint industry poisoning our kids, or gun manufacturers allowing our families to die. He was always there. And he was a fierce force for good when it came to his leadership for housing, something he knew all too well. Was an urgent need and that needed change here in California, here in San Francisco, and led the fight for the strongest tenant protection law in the state of California's history and in all of the nation. That was David Chiu. And that defines who he is. I mean, I talked to him after he got, I forget what it was, 17 bills turned into law this year, and that's standard. That's what you come to expect from David Chiu. And these weren't just I use this silly sports analogy when I talk about legislation, but these weren't just base hits where you're getting on base. These were home runs in every policy area. He swung for the fence and he got it done. And so, in my view, we're lucky to have him. San Francisco, the city and county is lucky to have him. The state of California is lucky to have him, whatever role that might be. If he's willing to serve, I'm on board with David Chiu. I love me some David Chiu, whatever it is. And so, the San Francisco City Attorney's Office is important to me. Some of you may know, some of you may not. I worked in that office for 9.5 years. 9.5 incredible years working with the best boss in the world, Dennis Herrera, who led that office with courage and conviction, made it an office that was a force for good, and incredible colleagues who came every day mission-driven to do good for the people of this city and this county. And so I would not be okay with just anyone taking over the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. And I know that Dennis Herrera has set the standard. Luis Rennie before him also, this is, let me just say it, this is the best municipal law office in the nation, bar none. And while Dennis Herrera has left his indelible mark on the office, and no one will seek to or can imitate it, David Chiu, in his own way, will write the next chapter in this incredible office and continue its legacy of fighting for justice, fighting for opportunity, fighting for equity, fighting for inclusion. So I wanted to say, thank you again to David for stepping up. Let me say thank you to his family. Thank you to Candace and Lucas to the siblings and parents proud that are here to see David step into this role. I just want to share a short vignette. I know how much David loves you, Candace and Lucas. I know you know that personally, of course, as well. But he would always want to come home after a long week in Sacramento, ready to be a dad and a husband. And so on our final day in the Capitol, when we were wrapping up session on Thursdays, I would often we'd carpool back together. And he would very generously give me the opportunity to drive him in his car so that he may or may not have taken a nap to be refreshed when he got home. I cannot confirm or deny that, but that may or may not have happened. But let me just say that, David, I'm not sure what the right word is. He's been my partner, my wingman. We've gotten so much done together as legislators, proud of the work. It was always me supporting him and taking his lead. And one of the things I missed most when I became the Attorney General, certainly the honor and privilege of a lifetime, was I miss David. I miss working with him. I miss that feeling of collaboration, of combining forces to work for something great, and to do something maybe neither of us could have done alone, but to do it together. And I know that spirit's not going to end, although our roles are changing, that we will continue as Attorney General and San Francisco City Attorney to fight for people, fight for what's right, lift people up, right wrongs, fight for justice, and I'm very excited for that. So let me just say on behalf of my family and me to you and your family, congratulations, David Chiu. I'm very excited for you, very excited for the city and county of San Francisco and the state for all the great things that will lead, because that is his brand. That's what David does. He gets things done that lift people up and make people's lives better. So I already said made some remarks about him, but next coming up, I just want to say thank you for your years of service, Dennis. You're an incredible leader. You're an incredible friend. You were an incredible boss. I told him privately that I've copied some of the things that he did for me, for my attorneys in DOJ, because he was hands-on and he always showed appreciation and love for his team. But let's give it up for Dennis Herrera, San Francisco Public Utilities Commission General Manager.
Mr. Attorney General, first of all, soon-to-be City Attorney Chiu, notice he was buttering you up a lot. Everybody knows lately I've been calling him a thief. He's right. We have a great office, the best public law office in the state of California. And that's why he comes here to recruit great former deputy city attorneys, who he's taken a couple lately since, Mayor Breed, you made your announcement. But Rob, it is great to be with you here today. And I know that the mayor made some introductions, and I want to acknowledge all the former and current deputy city attorneys who are here, who do a wonderful job on behalf of the residents of the city and county of San Francisco. We have my predecessor, former city attorney Louise Rennie. We have Attorney General Bonta. We have Scott Wiener. We have U.S. District Court Judge Vince Chabria, and a whole host of other former deputies and a lot of current ones. And I was thinking as I was coming over here today that I was trying to figure out who had the over-under on whether I was actually going to leave. And I can tell you it is legit. I'm gone. I got my pass. My stuff is all moved into that very, very small office at 525 Golden Gate, not anything like the palace that we have here in City Hall. But I've done my part in bringing a little bit of rain on my first day as PUC General Manager. Off to a good start. And David, I am so happy to be here to celebrate you as the 31st City Attorney of the City and County of San Francisco. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege and honor for me. First of all, you have the best office in this building. I don't know what Louise Rennie did to negotiate with Willie Brown when this building was being redone, but it is without a doubt the best office in City Hall, and you will experience it yourself when you leave this ceremony, as will Lucas. You are about to ascend to the most independent office in San Francisco city government. And I can't overstate how important that is. You know, the drafters of San Francisco's city charter wanted the city attorney to speak with one voice, to be independent and to be answerable to the people of San Francisco. And that's why the San Francisco city attorney is only one of 10 elected city attorneys in the state of California. Now, let me just tell you, not everybody likes that. When I took office, Willie Brown made it quite clear how much he didn't like having an independently elected city attorney. And in his last 2 years, my first 2 years, whenever we'd have a dispute, he was sure to run to the press to talk about how he was going to put term limits on the city attorney. Now, he never actually did it, and we have a lot of laughs now, but he wasn't alone. There were members of the Board of Supervisors who, in my initial meetings with them, talked about the importance of the Board of Supervisors having the ability to appoint their own counsel. And Louise Rennie will remember this very well. And when I stated my opposition to that, a chill came over the room, and relations took a little bit of time to warm up. But I will say that if you do this job right, chilliness will evolve into grudging respect. And if you do the job long enough for long enough, it actually evolves into admiration and gratitude, and for being there at the right time. And the best analogy I can think of is that of a baseball glove. You brought up baseball. It's a baseball glove. When you get that new glove, you don't know how it's going to feel. Got to oil it up. Don't know how it's going to react. But then the big game comes. Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, and you have to make a big play. And that new glove is now an old glove. It's perfectly oiled, and it rises to the occasion, and you're so happy that you have it. Now, I've been doing this long enough where maybe I evolved into being the old glove. But you are now the new glove. And folks, let me tell you, there is nobody more prepared to make the big play in the big game than David Chiu. I've had the good fortune of knowing him for 20 years. He moderated one of the first debates that I had, which he reminded me about back in Chinatown when I was running for city attorney. And since that time, we've had the opportunity, I've seen him as a client, the Board of Supervisors, a colleague in the legislature where we worked on legislation together, and as a competitor when we both ran for mayor in 2011, when we had to debate 5, 6 times a night for I don't know how many times. And most recently, during the course of this transition, we have sat in my backyard talking about issues. And I have been struck by his incredible intellect, his thirst for knowledge, but most importantly, his independence, his honesty, and his integrity, and his respect for the traditions of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. So, as I stand here today, I don't have a lot of advice for him how to do the job right. He's going to figure that out and forge his own path. But I know it's going to be great. I know he'll become the old glove probably a lot quicker than I did. But I'll just offer this little piece of advice that someone very wise once gave to me, and it's an indicator of how history repeats itself. Last time there was a city attorney swearing in here was January of 2010. It was my 3rd term. And David Chiu was in his 1st term, and he was president of the Board of Supervisors, and he was sitting right there as an 8-year-old boy by the name of Declan Herrera stole the show, introducing the crowd speaking in Mandarin. Well, Declan grew up in this building. He grew up here experiencing everything about it. He understood the halls and the people of the executive offices for the city attorney's office. He can tell you that my parking space number was 37. Since he used to run down there all the time, he could tell you that Aaron Peskin's first office was room 256. And he experienced that. Well, Declan is now 20 years old and a sophomore at Villanova University on the East Coast. So we had a conversation today when he did what he usually does on Monday mornings, calls me and asks me for money, okay? And to tell me about what he did on the weekend. But he actually showed a little bit of interest when he asked me what I was doing today. And I told him what I was doing today. And he asked about David's son, his name and his age. And he said, "Dad, please tell David and his wife that I hope that Lucas has half as much fun experiencing the magic and the people of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office as I had with you." And that's what Declan said to me today. And that is the best thing that you can do, coming back from Sacramento, sharing this place with your boy, and keeping up the best tradition of our office. So before I introduce, and I know you're going to do a fabulous job, and I'm going to be there whatever you did. So before I introduce Mayor Breed to take us down the formal road, I just want to say that it is so wonderful, after serving with 5 mayors, to have a mayor that, at least for now, responds to my advice so easily. And I got to tell you, the reason I'm saying that is because people would ask me during the course of my 20 years in office, well, what's the secret to running such a great office? How does it work so great? I said, it's real simple. I just hire people smarter than me, and I let them do their job. And that's exactly what Mayor Breed has done. She followed my advice. She hired somebody smarter than me, and she said she's going to let him do his job. So with that, Mayor London Breed.
Well, first of all, I was getting all emotional over you talking about Declan and what we hope Lucas will experience growing up. And I think what it reminds us of is really why we're all here. We want the city to be better. We want the city to be a great city, especially for future generations. And Dennis, you have definitely done your part in making San Francisco a better place for all San Franciscans. Thank you so much. And to the members of your team, all the great people, I see Jesse is joining us today. Many a nights during COVID, Jesse, but we are still here. And when people try and credit me with the fact that San Francisco did so well in COVID, we couldn't have done it without the incredible people who work for the city, and especially you in the City Attorney's Office. So thank you, Jesse Smith. And I gotta say, replacing someone like Dennis Herrera, it's a lot of pressure. But it was also the worst kept secret in San Francisco, because you all knew exactly what I knew, exactly what Dennis knew, that there was no better person to step in and to do this very challenging, independent, complicated job than David Chiu. See, David and I have a very long history. In fact, David was the chair of the Democratic Party at one point. Remember that? Or was that Scott? Well, you guys were there together. 2 peas in a pod. But it's so interesting. I remember him. I wasn't an elected official at that time, and he was a member of the San Francisco Democratic Party and was not only actively engaged in supporting and running for office in his district, he ventured out to other neighborhoods to make it clear that although when he decided to run for supervisor in District 3, he wanted to be a part of doing good policy work for San Franciscans. And so he has an extensive track record of work that he's done around policy. We have talked about his work on housing. We've talked about his work around tenants' rights. There are so many things that even when I became a member of the Board of Supervisors that I learned from David, And one of the things that I appreciate about him that it took me a while to really get and understand, because I was always a fighter. Let's fight this, let's fight that. David is like, I want to get the job done, so let's bring people together. Let's bring people together. Let's figure out the complicated problem, and let's negotiate so that what we do represents the very best of what we're able to do as policymakers for the people of this city. He did that every single time, which is why he continued to get elected time and time again as the president of the board. But many are not familiar with his track record in the law. In fact, working for Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, helping immigrant families who were being evicted, including those in the Mission District, working with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals as a clerk, working as an attorney in the United States Senate, working for the San Francisco District Attorney's Office. Through and through, his ability as an attorney is not only what served him well as a policymaker to be thoughtful and understanding and make sure that we are using the law to bring about justice, but it also will serve him very well as our next city attorney for this incredible city that we all know and love. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to swear in David Chiu as the next city attorney. All right. Lucas, are you ready? You ready for Dada to do this job? Good. What a good son. What a good son. All right. Put your hand on that. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, David Chiu,
I, David Chiu,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter,
the duties upon which I'm about to enter,
and during such time
and during such time
as I serve as
as I serve as
the city attorney
the city attorney
for the city and county of San Francisco.
of the city and county of San Francisco.
Congratulations.
I am so humbled by this moment. This is overwhelming. And with all the amazing things that have been said, I almost feel like I should shut up and just sit down. Let me start with some profound thanks. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Breed. I want to thank you not just for this incredible opportunity, but for your leadership during these incredibly difficult times. I am looking forward to working with you, with every single member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in an attorney-client privilege way, with all of the elected officials who are here, with the judges who are here, with the over 100 city departments and agencies and commissions to move our great city forward. I, of course, want to salute my predecessor, our outgoing city attorney, Dennis Herrera. You know, for 20 years, as has been said, you have built the gold standard for what a premier public law office means in this country. You have done it with integrity, with independence, with boldness that I seek to emulate. Our city owes you an incredible debt of gratitude. And I'm looking forward to carrying on your legacy and the legacy of former City Attorney Luis Rennie as we move forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I, of course, want to thank my good friend, Attorney General Rob Bonta, for our friendship over many years, for the work our two offices will do together, and for promising me you will never poach another deputy city attorney from our office. I also want to thank our good Reverend Norman Fong for your spiritual leadership, for the work we have done together in the communities that we care about. Please pray for me every single day, every day. And I want to thank our performer. So I have to say, Tiffany is someone who I've been able to observe over the years. And I'm just going to share, she was nervous before today, but you knocked it out of the park, speaking truth to power. Thank you, sister. So I was hoping to go around the room. I was going to start with my first roommate in San Francisco, who happens now to be the mayor of San Jose. But what happens at 1111 Green Street stays in 1111 Green Street, attorney-client privilege, all right? But I want to say, I wish I could go around the room because literally every person here is special. And to my friends, to our supporters, to our current and former staff, to the Chiu crew, I love you. I could not have done everything I've done thus far without you. And we're going to continue this work together into the future, thanks to each and every one of you. And I want to also take a moment and thank the residents of Assembly District 17. Because for the last 7 years, you have given me the incredible honor. This is an honor that Rob Bonta knows, that Senator Scott Wiener knows, that former Assembly Speaker Willie Brown knows, the honor to represent the people in the state legislature. Thank you for that honor. I want to talk for a moment about family. I want to welcome my brothers here. I want to welcome my amazing in-laws here. But of course, I have to take a moment and thank the most amazing woman in my life, my beautiful, incredible, amazing wife, Candace. So I've never had a chance to brag about my wife in public, but for those of you who, most of you probably don't know that she has a very intense public interest job managing a refugee foster care program. And while she has done that for the past 7 years, while I've been in Sacramento, she has held down the home front with our energetic and occasionally rambunctious son, Lucas. And babe, I am just so glad to be home with you. So there are two more folks that I want to thank, and I think you probably know who they are. I am the son of Chinese immigrants. My mother was a teacher. My father was a doctor. My parents taught me everything about who I am, about my values. They taught me what it means to serve. And I am so happy, Mom and Dad, that you're here with us today. Could you please stand up to be acknowledged by everyone here? To begin my comments today, I'm going to share a couple of things that we didn't discuss as a family growing up in Boston in the 1970s and 1980s. First, I never expected to be an attorney because when we were growing up, my immigrant family, we didn't know any attorneys. Mom and Dad wanted me to follow in Dad's footsteps, and I know to this day, my mom is still disappointed that I didn't go to medical school. Sorry, Mom. The second thing we didn't talk about, though, was the fact that we were different as the very rare Chinese family growing up in our community. We never talked about the ethnic slurs, the racial slights. But something happened when I was a freshman pre-med in college. One day, I got a telephone call from a friend. About 8 Asian American students at a nearby university who were going to a semi-formal dance on a bus at night. They were attacked by football players from their very school who hurled racial epithets, spat at them. The most disturbing aspect of what happened was that those attackers were not brought to justice. That moment changed me. I was incredibly upset because those students could have been me. And I became a student activist. I studied the civil rights movement. I switched my major from biochemistry to government. And a few years later, I decided I had to go to law school because I wanted to fight for justice. That fight for justice is why I became a public interest attorney. It's why I worked with some of you here at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, why I worked with others as a civil rights attorney, why I worked with others of you at the San Francisco DA's office. That fight for justice is also why I'm here in San Francisco, because our city embraces all of us from around the world. If you look around this very room, just look around, we reflect the diversity of the world. Whether you were a gay kid growing up in New Jersey, like Scott Wiener, or whether you were a refugee daughter fleeing civil war in El Salvador, like Myrna Melgar, or whether you were a young kid fleeing rural Texas, like Mayor Willie Brown. We're all called to the city because this city has welcomed us, because we believe in standing up for those who need help. We believe in righting the wrongs. I first came to San Francisco to work for an organization rooted in the African American community, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, as we challenged Proposition 187, which would have kicked Asian and Latino kids out of public schools. A couple years later, I represented the organization that Norman Fong headed up, the Chinatown Community Development Center, and Mission Housing and other affordable housing organizations, when at that time, then Governor Pete Wilson was trying to kick immigrant tenants out of affordable housing. In both of those instances, justice prevailed. I've had a chance to work with everyone in this room as a public official. And I will tell you that during my time as a public official, the fight for justice has been front and central. Working with so many of you, we have been involved in our collective fight for civil rights. Not just the right to housing or the rights for immigrants, but for LGBTQ rights, for women's rights, for the right to choose. And I can tell you, as your next city attorney, I'm going to continue the fight for our collective civil rights. Because in the wake of Me Too and Black Lives Matter and anti-Asian hate, there is more work to be done. Now, as a lawmaker, I'll also tell you that my fight for justice has also been about taking on the most entrenched corporate interests in America. Together in the legislature, we took on Big Pharma for skyrocketing drug prices. We took on big oil for polluting our environment. We took on gun manufacturers for killing kids, lead paint companies for poisoning families. We took on Wall Street banks for failing our community, and predatory for-profit schools for failing our kids. And I will tell you, as our next city attorney, I will continue this fight for justice. I will continue to stand up to protect workers, to ensure that we are standing up for consumers, and we will hold corporations accountable. A third priority. As a policymaker, my fight for justice has also been about solving the biggest challenges of the day, whether it be ensuring that we get people back up on their feet after the Great Recession and this one, or making sure that millions of tenants were not being evicted during this pandemic. As your next city attorney, I look forward to working with each and every one of you to thinking about how we can use the role of the law and take the opportunity to address the pressing problems of the day. Whether it be housing and homelessness and suffering on our streets, whether it be the existential crisis of climate, or whether it be rooting out corruption and ensuring that we are holding City Hall to the highest ethical standards. This is what we're going to do. Now, let me close with just two final thoughts. First, I'd like to observe that at this moment in United States history, we live in dark times. Rights that we thought we had taken for granted are at serious risk, whether it be the right to vote, the right to choose, the right to health care. And the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, over the years, has stood through dark times, when no one thought marriage equality was possible, when Donald Trump came after San Francisco and our sanctuary city status, when Mayor London Breed needed legal advice to figure out how to defend our city against a new novel virus called COVID-19. The stellar legal attorneys at the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, they have wielded their legal sword and their legal shield for our city time after time, for city and country. And I cannot wait to roll up my sleeves to work alongside them. Now, my final thought, my hope really, is for my 5-year-old son, Lucas. As we were discussing in the car today, as I drove him to drop him off in kindergarten, and I promised my wife I'm going to drop him off at kindergarten every day. You know, Lucas doesn't yet understand the work that I do, the work that we all do here at City Hall. But Lucas does understand that it's not right that too many people live on our streets in the middle of the rain. Lucas understands that when you look up at the sky, the color of the sky should not be dark orange. And Lucas understands that when you learn about something that's wrong, it's our responsibility not just to speak up, but to do something about it. Professor Cornel West has said, "Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public." Justice is what love looks like in public. My profound hope is that when Lucas is older, buddy, when you're older, someday you will say that your papa and the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, we fought for justice, and we did it out of love for San Franciscans, out of love for our brothers and sisters in humanity, and out of love for our next generation. Thank you, and Godspeed.